Well, I mean, not to rehash old shit, but what would you say if a judge said he didn't know what you meant by do you have the right to a fair and meaningful hearing?
So hang tight there. You just said you don't understand what I mean by a fair and meaningful hearing. Is that correct?
The judge told that to me. I'm just trying to gauge.
You're kidding me though, right? You did go to law school, correct? You can't tell me what you think a fair and meaningful hearing is here today?
Okay, so at this point, I'm the judge?
Are you fucking joking me right now?
Come on, man! I can't say that without planning on going to the jail. I've got a little bit more, cushion under me now.
Okay, ease off.
My judge did that to me. My judge did that to me, and in fact, he drug it out for so freaking long. You know, I started to feel threatened for time because, you know, I mean, I even broke it in half for him. So can I get fair here?
What you think a fair and meaningful? Is that what you're telling me? Can I give a yes or no to that question?
Well, at the point it was asked,
no, answer it as the judge. One of you two answer it as the judge. One of you two answer it as the judge. Pick one. I'm gonna try.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by a fair and meaningful hearing. I think that's why you probably need a lawyer, sir.
Objection.
I can appoint one for you. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. I can appoint one for you if you need one. Okay. That's the
point of clarification. Can I write down the answer that you just gave me to that last clarification?
If you wait till I finish, you can tell me.
I do not understand what you mean by the cause and nature of a fair and meaningful hearing. Yeah, that's. So you did go to law school. Is that correct?
No, I was voted in.
So you have no idea what a fair and meaningful hearing is here today. I'm going to ask that the judge recuse themselves, since it sounds to me like they might even be trolling me. It's pretty ridiculous. So
I'm trolling you a little bit, man. Obviously no judge would actually say that.
It's pretty non-realistic, yeah, and you might get shit if someone else was to come into this chat.
Oh, I'm sure it would.
Right, I've run out of shit to counter, so I'd be.
I guess the time when that happened, I was being very careful and trying not. I had already been accused of kind of having an attitude. I wasn't quite at the point where he halfway threatened me for contempt, but instead of retorting with a question, I just explained what.
Did you get an answer?
Meaningful, man.
Do I have a right to be informed of the cause and nature of the allegations and proceedings against me here today, sir?
I hadn't got that far. By the time I got around to getting back on track, he'd already assigned me a lawyer, so I jumped straight to the plea. Oh, actually, I'm sorry.
Where are you getting the questioning? I don't want to recommend a script of any sort, but would that not be up in the top of your somewhere?
Well, one thing I wasn't prepared for when I got there was they had basically a public defender sitting in the defendant's seat or next to the defendant's chair representing anybody in the room who wasn't already represented by an attorney. So any question I asked, they referred it to her, which kind of got me back onto my plea of guilty.
And what was said next then? At that exact point that you're.
He said he believes I need a lawyer, but maybe. Sorry, go ahead.
I should hope you're analyzing this. So, what was the next thing that was said? At that exact point.
that exact point in time, he said he's not sure if he could accept a plea of guilty from me, but if he saw 3 heads getting together to talk about it, he might consider it. I should lead by, I got started with my questions a little late. He'd already asked me about my financial situation. Anything said by the prosecutor was said before I got up to, the desk. So, admittedly, I fucked up.
Do you now recognize the importance of being around to actually figure this shit out? Try it.
Yes.
Be dangerous.
I had the chance to talk to a few people about it, but there wasn't a lot of role play going on.
So looking at it, well, I get you. You weren't doing enough of a proactive way of finding it. It's around.
I certainly wasn't. Not until it was already in my lap.
Thing that people fail to recognize is that they're in here looking for legal advice or some shit. I don't think you're gonna find too many people inclined to try and give you some kind of procedural shit, but maybe.
I'm in here looking more for what I can tell my children when they get old enough.
Right. I choose not to partake in legal advice as what to say, but more thinking for yourself to critically think, why is it that so many people don't ask anything when they go into a... And they're being accused of something that's totally no harm whatsoever. Cage for like 60, 90, 160 days. What? Because you had lettuce in your pocket.
Well, and while I listened to a lot of the videos, and I took them seriously, I hadn't had a lot of experience in role play. Even after I chatted with some of the guys on here, it was less role play and more what I did wrong, rather than let's go through this and see how you could have done it right. Does that make sense?
Does anybody here want to try a one-on-one, not a combative thing, but how about this? Yeah, I'll do a judge. If somebody else wants to do a judge position at this exact moment, I'll give it 30 seconds. I'll ask, how do you plead? Somebody else steps up first. All right, how do you plead?
I came in with the intent to plead guilty here today, sir. But before I can do that, I need some clarifications made, if that's not a problem. Is this recording, or is this hearing being recorded, audio or visually? And if so, how long before I can get a copy of that?
Compound question, but yes, it's being recorded, and yes, you most certainly have a copy of it. You'll have to request it from the transcript department. It's a third organization. They're on 123 54th Street, and they provide them at 25 cents per page.
Oh, that's great. The 25 cents is not a problem. If I head down there and they don't have that, who's going to be held responsible if I can't gain a copy of that?
Well, clerk, I just want to make sure this is being put on the record at the moment. Sounds to me like the recording's going fine. There's no issues there. You won't have a problem with it, sir. We'll be able to get that information.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for your honest answer. Do I have the right to responsive answers as I go through this hearing today?
Well, one should hope you wouldn't expect anything otherwise. This is sir, I don't know what the reason is for the question, but yes, you do. You'll be able to.
I do. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Certainly didn't mean to interrupt you. I do. Thank you very much. Do I have the right to be informed of the cause and nature of these proceedings?
Yes.
And do I have the right to a fair and meaningful hearing today, sir?
You do.
At any time, am I going to be compelled to be a witness against myself today?
Are you looking to go to trial? Is that what you're looking for?
No, absolutely not, Judge. My intent is to plead guilty. I just need to meet some basic clarifications to make sure I'm doing the responsible thing for, the justice system, myself, my family, everything like that. I just want to dot the I's and cross the T's. Is that a yes or no, or would you like me to repeat the question?
Well, I thought you said you were intending on pleading guilty. Now you're talking about things that would lead me to believe you might be pleading not guilty and wishing for this to go to trial.
No, sir. My complete intent is to have my clarifications met and plead guilty. Leave this courtroom with the least damage possible to myself. I'm just asking if I'm going to be compelled to be a witness against myself today.
It's your right to not be forced to be a witness yourself. Where are you? This line of questioning, sir.
So is that a yes or no?
Yes. Now
Thank
I
you.
would
Thank you
suggest
very
you
much.
get on with the rest of your clarifications. Good. Big line up here. Big.
Sorry, will do. I don't want to take up any more time than I have to. At any time, will I be deprived of liberty or my property without due process of law?
Well, that'll be entirely your choice, sir. If you want to continue to play games like it's not what you're here for. I don't know where you're going with this line of questioning, and I don't see how it's relevant. Wish to contest the charges, we can enter a plea of not guilty.
No, sir. I'm not interested in contesting the charges at this point. My sole interest is in pleading guilty at some point today after my clarifications have been met. My question was, at any point today during this hearing, will I be deprived of liberty or any of my property without due process of law?
What are you doing? You're yes, sir.
What am I doing wrong? Tell me.
No, you're good. I was just bugging another buddy. He unplugged the bong. Yeah. So you're yes, you have that right. So what's it gonna be here today, sir? I mean,
Am I presumed
I
innocent
think
today,
we've
sir?
answered enough of these questions.
I certainly don't want to take up more of the court's time than I have to. Am I presumed innocent today, sir?
Everyone that comes before presumed.
I'm sorry, I must be a little far away. I probably would repeat this question to a judge, but I honestly didn't hear you. Am I presumed innocent today here, sir?
Yes.
And that pertains to every element of the charges against me? Yes or no? Thank you very much for the responsive answer. That is awesome. Is jurisdiction an element of the charges today?
I assure you this court has jurisdiction, sir, and we're not going to go into any of these free men on the land, sovereign citizen arguments anywhere in this court here today. I assure you that. And we are here to ascertain a plea of guilty, not guilty, or no contest.
Oh, I promise you I'm not a sovereign citizen, sir. I don't even know what that means. I'm just simply asking if I'm presumed innocent of every element of the charge, and specifically if jurisdiction is one of those elements.
It is.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Am I presumed innocent of jurisdiction at this point?
Jurisdiction is not something someone is presumed innocent of, sir. This is one of the elements here, and this court considers it the prosecution has presented prima facie evidence that they had jurisdiction, and it's something that you can bring a motion before the court, and you can contest it. If that's what you wish to do, we can set this for an evidentiary hearing in 2 weeks. So we'll see you.
Objection. Point of clarification, sir. I do believe you said that I was innocent of the charges here against me, and that jurisdiction was one of those elements. My question was, am I innocent of the element of jurisdiction? Has the prosecutor submitted any factual evidence regarding jurisdiction here today?
Yes, you are.
I'm sorry, I am innocent of the element of jurisdiction here today?
Yes.
Well, then I would move to dismiss for the prosecution's failure to state a case at this point in time.
Motion is denied.
Can you tell me what grounds denied on, sir?
Sir, you have the option here today to enter a plea of guilty, not guilty, or no contest. It's not what we're here for, to discuss trial matters. This is not a trial. Do you understand that, sir?
I certainly do, sir. I'm simply just trying to get this threat of violence out of my life as soon as possible. So just by clarifying a few questions, I would happily plead guilty and get out of the court's care. So has the prosecution submitted factual evidence the court has jurisdiction over me here today, sir?
Who are you asking information from?
Okay, well, Mr. Prosecutor, have you submitted the judge with factual evidence that this court has jurisdiction over me at this point in time?
Oh yeah, we've given them everything.
All right. So, not bad at this point. I'm just going to call it off roleplay for a second.
Yeah, go ahead and let me know.
Is it about whether the court has jurisdiction or whether...
At this point, it's whether anybody has jurisdiction to tell me I should be there right now without a gun pointed at my head.
Anybody else listening here, is that better pointed at the prosecutor? Where I see that going is you're hitting the nail on the head. Just be a little cleaner with the language along the way. My opinion.
The last time I was in here with you, I listened to it a few times and realized where, the basic point was just kind of flying past me. So I've only done one role play since then. I'm certainly open to make my point finer.
It's called subject matter jurisdiction, and it's the what it does is it gives the court the right to hear the case. So there's territorial jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction, and personam jurisdiction. 3 different kinds.
Okay, can I see evidence that there is subject matter jurisdiction that I should have been brought in here today?
Has the prosecutor described or submitted factual evidence as of today that would establish prosecution or this court would have jurisdiction to impose upon me here today?
Hold on a second. I was looking for just that. I want to write that down.
I mean, shit, there's so many different angles on that question.
Yeah, but honestly, that was the basic question that I was.
Depends on your opening clarifications and what you got answered with yes. You could throw some of that shit. Right?
You jumped in. I mean, last time you jumped in with a question or a specification clarification just like that. And since the thing was like 4 hours long and I was on my phone, it was really hard to pinpoint where exactly that was. Plus, I was trying to listen to the role play and work at the same time earlier today. So can you just repeat that for me one more time?
Has the prosecution described or submitted any factual evidence? As of today, that would establish that the prosecution or this court would have jurisdiction to impose upon me here today. And then put in brackets one who is innocent and who is unwilling to participate in these proceedings. Just chew on that for a minute.
I was listening to that a little bit earlier today on one of the arraignment foundation deals with the Swedes. They were kind of getting past the point, and there was some role play going on.
Have you thought about that for a bit?
I absolutely have. I'm unwilling and I'm innocent. I gotcha.
Who's to say you're not some guy that got like their license plate stolen off their car and you got a photo radar in your mailbox? And your car ran, or someone else's car ran a photo radar with your license plate on it. It comes in the mailbox. Are you supposed to miss a $500 day of work to go fight a $260 ticket, or are you supposed to pay them?
Well, I would say at that point, not only does that not pertain to me, but I'm an even bigger victim than before they brought me in for some police pulling me over for some bullshit. Either way,
Those
I'm
are
the
the
victim.
kinds of things, though, that are good analogies.
One more time, I'm sorry.
Well, those are good analogies. You might want something you absolutely, beyond a reasonable doubt, did not do, but you're expected to show up in a court. They're going to say, well, simply because of you being a citizen of this fine country, this great place called America.
I've learned better than calling myself a citizen a long, long time ago. It just took me a little while to work through all the other
so-called trial scenario that I back to an arraignment. I'm like, so has anybody here brought any evidence? Silent.
The evidence is on the ticket with your signature.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait.
So the guy with the gun telling me I had to sign this or I would get locked into a cage is the arbiter of jurisdiction.
The evidence.
Do you have any facts to prove that? Here today?
This was your statement, sir.
Well, hang tight a second. Hang tight. Can I finish this?
Yeah, get at it.
So it's your opinion that the ticket is the evidence that would establish to impose upon, right?
Your signature.
And that's the only thing?
That's consent.
Is there a signature on it? It's not what I'm asking. Asking you is if the ticket with some scribble on there that I'm sure they couldn't substantiate being evidence of anything other than a gun pointed at somebody's head to sign something. Could have been anybody though. This is evidence that would establish courts or the prosecution's rightful authority to impose. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a promise to appear.
Right. So that is evidence that they have the rightful.
I don't want to stop this, but the ticket that I received, I didn't even have to sign. They just
Right. Yeah, they don't make you sign tickets.
Did they make you sign anything after the arraignment to go to the next court date?
Wouldn't matter. I want to roll with it anyway.
Yeah, I got screwed at the arraignment. Well, I screwed myself at the arraignment by not being
whether there's a scribble on that piece of paper or not. I'm trying to get to a more or.
I would like to say that anything I sign under threat, coerce, and
what I am
coercion
doing currently at the moment right now is trying to isolate, trying to have an uninterrupted.
Sorry.
I don't want to be rude.
I don't either.
Well, let's roll with it, right? This is just something I'm batting some ideas out. This doesn't mean do this because I'm doing it right now. I'm trying my see what the fuck I can come. So this piece of paper right here with some scribbles on that line right there, that's what you're telling me is evidence that would establish the prosecution and this court have jurisdiction to impose upon. Is that correct?
Is that your mark? Whether it be scribbles or legible English, is that your mark? Did you make those marks? And in the box it says a promise to appear without admitting guilt.
There was a guy at the side of the road, was armed. I didn't know what to do. He was pretty loud and not really.
Did he unholster his weapon or gesture? Did he draw his weapon on you?
Judge, did you just ask me a question? Did you just interrupt me while I was answering the question you asked me?
Yes, I did. I'm allowed to do that. Did the officer point his weapon at you at any time?
Is this a Spanish Inquisition?
I'm going to go ahead and enter a plea for you. Not guilty and set a trial date. Trial date would be set for...
Why have you not asked the prosecution any of these questions? Is he the one bringing the allegation?
Next. That's what they do. They'll enter a plea for you, and you're moving right along.
I guess we could...
No, and you're totally right. You're totally right. There's nothing wrong with railroading somebody in a roll. Now, where could you have said something more effective? Where could have I said something more effective to counter what I was dealing with?
They were bringing up the point where the officer wasn't pointing his weapon at me. He did stop my progression of progress.
He was stopping me from attempting to isolate the situation. At that point, I was trying to find out. He was telling me that a piece of paper with some scribbles on it is evidence that they had the rightful authority to fuck with me to begin with.
Oh, they're never going to say that.
So I want to know. Well, whatever. I'm putting it in my own language.
You got to try to make them say it. I'm assuming.
And they're never going to admit that, but that's the chain of jurisdiction. That's the chain of evidence. It's the chain of proof.
Well, according to who?
That's why we started with the first few questions before he could just start.
But if that was the thing that they were presenting as evidence, would establish they. I was trying to isolate whether that was the only thing they had.
That's all they got. That's all they need.
Perfect. Isn't the ticket nothing but evidence of an allegation against me?
You signed a promise to appear. Okay. By signing that, you are consenting to. You're promising to appear. You're going to show up. You're saying, I will show up. I will make. They're making an offer to you. Oh, you want to sign this? And you're willfully doing that. And that's pretty much. It's at that point you're under their jurisdiction by signing that ticket.
If someone signs something knowing that there's an imminent threat of danger right beside them with a gun in a holster when they're unarmed,
you're gonna have to. You would have to prove that the cop pulled his gun out and pointed at you and said, "Sign this." I mean, it's definitely there. There's definitely a gun there, and the threat is there. But and they could even threaten you with jail if you don't sign. But
please tell me what would happen if I was just to drive away from. There was flashing lights behind me. If I were just to put it and drive and go, please describe the chain of events that would occur after that.
Well, it depends on how fast your car is.
What if it was,
What's that?
What if it was 45 mile an hour and a 45 mile an hour zone?
You just drove away at the speed limit? They'd probably, they'd probably clip your tail and spin you around and stop you and pull their guns out and beat you up for resisting, failure to comply with police instruction or police authority.
Right. Could possibly even be killed, right? Might pull a cell
Oh,
phone.
you could totally be killed. They could shoot you right there, but you're running away, and they do all the time.
I pulled a cell phone out of my pocket and they say, "Hey, look, he's got a gun."
Or failing to apply with something that you never agreed to apply with personally,
I mean, as long as nobody ever forgets that kind of violence is there. No, I think one step that some people forget time to time is just to isolate. Fuck, it is, right? It's kind of like a verbal motion in limine, right? It's not necessarily that, but while you're verbalizing what's going on here, let's call out what this evidence they consider evidence. Let's consider what it is. Evidence of what? A scribble on a piece of paper is nothing but evidence of a scribble on a piece of paper.
Some people's signature is a scribble. Did you make the scribble in that box? Is the question. And if you say yes,
Yeah, the gun to my
are you
head.
asking me?
Done whatever you
Why are you
want.
asking me? Why haven't you asked the prosecutor if he knows anything about this? Isn't he the one that's supposed to be here with first-hand knowledge and testimony with a qualified say that
Gun pointer.
testimony period?
the prosecutor has provided the court with all the facts and evidence that it needs to bring you here and set a trial date. If you do not enter a plea, I will enter one for you.
That's what my clarifications hope to figure out, sir. And if my clarifications show that that is true, I will gladly plead guilty and be out of your hair.
What are your clarifications?
Well, that's a good question. At this point, my clarification would be, are you moving forward that me scribbling this on this piece of paper with my life in the back?
Sir, it is none of my business how you sign your name. The fact is you made the mark on the piece of paper in the box that says a promise to appear. Is that true?
Does this court...
Yes or no, is that true?
Sorry, what was the question again, Judge?
Did you make the scribble in the box that says promise to appear? Is that your
Under
mark?
the threat of violence and kidnapping, I sure did.
Yeah, it's a yes or no question, sir. You were threatened by the officer. He's going to be here at trial, and then we're going to ask him if he threatened you in any way. And you can be hauled in for perjury for lying in a courtroom, even though you're not sworn in right now at this point. So are you going to maintain that the officer threatened you to sign it?
What were my alternatives if I didn't sign it? Would I be thrown in jail? Would he have beat me up? He had pulled me out of the car? Of course I signed it under the threat of violence and coercion. I wanted to make it home to my kids that night, sir.
Was this a perceived coercion, or was this an actual coercion? Is this an imaginary coercion, or just something you're saying? Because you have to, if you're going to make a claim, you have to back it up, and you're claiming there was coercion.
Sir, as soon as those lights went off, I was being coerced off the road. As soon as a man with a gun walked up, I made sure I did what I was supposed to do to keep myself safe, to make sure I made it home to my family.
Is that your mark in the box, regardless of how illegible it may be?
Well, if it's illegible, it's because I was shaking, because a man with a gun just pulled me off the road for no reason or good given reason at all.
You there?
Oh, I'm here.
I don't know. I can't hear anything.
Sorry. I mean, like I told you, sir, my intent is to plead guilty here today. If you can show me somewhere where there is factual evidence that this man had the right to do that to me, I will sign the ticket and take my
Didn't hear that you got that to me.
I'm sorry. Can you really not hear me?
I can hear you now.
Sir, I've said quite a few times that my intent was to plead guilty here today. Now, if you can show me somewhere where I sign myself over
If your
to
intent is to plead guilty, then go ahead and plead guilty. Otherwise, I'm going to enter a plea of not guilty for you, and we're going to set this date for trial.
objection, sir. I just want to make sure some clarifications are met. I don't want to make an uninformed plea of guilty here. Has a prosecutor actually shown any factual evidence that this court has jurisdiction to impose upon me, sir?
Sir, we just went over that.
So the man with the gun on the side of the road is all this court needs to assign jurisdiction to me, sir? Is that the case? I'm just trying to be clear.
All the court needs to assign jurisdiction over you, to have subject matter jurisdiction over you, is your signature in that box. A promise to appear.
I see. So this
And we
this
have
court,
that. And we have that, sir. So enter a plea, or I will enter one for you.
so this court accepts contracts based off of coercion.
Why are you going to go off in the bushes there? Stop for a minute. So if I hadn't put a mark in the box, the codes and laws wouldn't apply to me?
You would simply not have made a promise to appear to court. And I don't really know it personally, like at a role play. I don't know what happened to that point, but I think your signature is definitely where all the power is. And
Okay.
it's very important for them to get that signature.
You know, so you're going to give power to something on paper just like they want you to. So be careful with that. I'm just going to point out that, you know, one, we want to know, do they have it? Okay, that's the number one thing. Not what is it, where is it, how did it get there? None of that.
When I went to court, it was for a red light camera ticket, okay? And obviously I didn't sign it. I just got a notice to appear in court. And it said if I don't appear, I need to turn in whoever was driving my car. Otherwise, I need to go to court. And it was kind of weird. They pulled some weird stuff, made me come back to a different court date, and they had me sign. That was the whole. It took me a little while to realize it, but that was the whole point of the thing, to get my signature on something saying I would promise to appear on a next date. Because without that, they couldn't take me into trial. They actually shuffled me out of one courtroom, put me in another courtroom, and then had that judge basically set my date for another date. And there was no real reason behind it other than they had to get my signature. Without the signature, they didn't have everything. All the Mark Stevens motions would have, they would have basically held up, I believe.
Look, what they did was they morally swayed you to believe their fairy tale. And
no, this isn't anybody morally swaying me. This is me observing actions. No judge is ever going to say, yeah, it's their signature in the promise to appear box. That's just what I personally believe that it rests and hinges upon. And as long as they have your signature, like government is done by consent. And once you have signed that, you're consenting, you're promising to appear. You're saying, I will let this court rule over me. I'm going to promise to show up.
But let me ask you this. So if you're on the side of the road with a cop and he tells you you have to sign that ticket and you sign it, are you bound to that?
You made a promise to appear. That's you're promising without admitting guilt. You're promising to appear. What's the point of the signature?
Well,
they have all your information.
Hang on a minute. Wasn't there a gun involved?
Was the gun in the holster?
Would it matter?
Yes.
No.
Why don't you ask then what would happen to me if I don't sign it?
I will next time. I'm not going to sign it. I just after I went through my court date and everything like that, and they fined me, and I went to the fines room. It's like I refused to sign the paperwork there.
Have you presented any evidence that you're obligated to sign this thing?
You are not. You are not obligated. That's
Okay,
the
so if
point.
you look at
Don't
that-
sign.
You look at that stop with Ethics and Bow. Remember when he got stopped and they were
Yeah.
traveling back? And they said not about signing something. They said not about any of that shit. Where's the obligation? I don't need it. No thanks.
There
He's
isn't
like, oh,
an
I'm
obligation.
just gonna write refused. No.
So if there's not an obligation, how can they call that fair, Luke?
How about
It's not fair. It's not a fair system.
I decline your offer. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not accepting any offers at this time. I'm declining your offer. No, thank you.
All right. And all that's fine too. I was just going to point out that in your role play, the first thing you want to know is, do they have it? Because most often they'll go off and do, oh, it's your license. Oh, you're a resident. Oh, you signed the box. Okay, whatever it is, great. Is that the only evidence that the prosecution has submitted? Okay, you want to get them to say, yep, that's it. That's all they need. Okay, right? Doesn't matter, because then you're going to isolate one or two or three of those, so you can get to the point where you say, well, look, if I didn't sign in the box, then the codes and laws would be irrelevant to me. Nope, that's not what I'm saying. Okay, so then signing in the box is irrelevant. So if I didn't have a license, would the codes and laws be applicable to me? Nope, you'd still have to obey the laws and the codes and the statutes and okay, great. So that's irrelevant. So you're going to knock them out.
Well, don't think that they're going to actually tell you the truth or be forthright and honest with you about anything, because they're not. And anytime you start getting to the truth with your questions, they're professional manipulators. They can do this. This is what they do full time, and they've done it for years and years and years and years. They will get you off track, and they have absolute power within that courtroom. And when you start getting close to the key things, they're just boom. They enter the plea for you, and you're done. Which is practicing law from the bench, as we all know.
Not practicing law from the bench. It's prosecuting from the bench.
Yeah.
Oh, the prosecutor wasn't even at my trial, and I had the judge objecting to to my questions about the legal determination by the cop, and the judge objected on behalf of the prosecution, who wasn't even at the trial.
Sure, happened to me too.
Against my questions, and I'm like, how can you do that, judge, and say this? And it didn't matter.
Oh, because the affidavits are. Judge, I already told you the affidavits are accepted by the court. I said that in the beginning.
Right. The cops always make a legal determination, but can they ever say that in court? No, they can't. They always make it to be able to write the ticket, but they don't ever say that in court. Why is that?
I'm pretty sure that
because they're not qualified to actually write tickets.
I think that's the point of backing them into a corner, my friend.
Yeah, well, we're just trying to help you clean up the lingo a little bit, so that, your next rodeo, I don't know when yours is, if you one coming up, I'm trying to help you clean it up. A judge is going to practice, what he does is prosecute from the bench. But, you're going to call him out on that when you're ready to war with the judge. You really don't want to war with the judge. You want to keep pointing to the mute in the suit.
Yeah, seriously, that's why I'm here. I lost the last time. I wasn't verbally effective enough.
Well, you've got a whole lifetime of programming to flip. It's not a surprise.
The switch is almost there.
Just around the corner. I know it.
Yep.
There's just one thing that I'm not willing to. I mean, I've got a little bit more backing than I did last time, but I'm not. I'm not excited about leaving my kids and my wife alone with nobody else to back them up in the house. It's going to be a little tough, so you got to step lightly a little bit. Which is why I'm hoping practice makes perfect.
There's some people here would actually use the idea of having.
Hey, just because you think you're going to lose is not a good reason to not fight. I believe you got to resist this shit and fight it every step of the way with everything you got. Even if it's a it's a totally rigged game and it's a signed system, it's like it's important to stand up and not submit and not lay down and go along with, because so many people do it.
More importantly, and I think it's something that's missed in Mark's message all the time, is make no claims. He says it over and over and over again, and I think it kind of gets by us. So consider whether what you're saying is making some kind of a
It's got to be
claim.
just questions, and you got to be able to think of a way to answer a question that the judge asks you without sounding like you're answering with a question, because they'll nail you for that too.
Well, you can maybe answer his question, possibly. Or you might say, I'm not here to testify. Or you might say, you know what, we can get to that once you've answered my relevant clarification on the table.
Amen.
So I guess what we're trying to do here is just kind of teach you to think for yourself a little bit and not make claims. If you don't make claims, you're going to kind of be forced to think of a cool way to put it into whatever, either what's on the table or what you want. You're going to keep it on your path, right?
Absolutely. Transitions.
Honestly, I thought I had all this stuff mapped out and figured out. And one thing that Mark says a lot is without role play, you're kind of up shit's creek. Probably not in those words, but you need to get in there and have shit thrown at you in order to be effective.
Yep. And notice everything that Mark comes back at him with is always a question. Always. The only exception might be the meat and potatoes. Well, the prosecution hasn't submitted any evidence. According to what you've said, he hasn't presented anything. I mean, that could be a claim, but nonetheless, it's the meat and potatoes. So if it's true, it's true. And that, which can be, oh hell, I always get it wrong.
that could which be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence, right?
10-4. That's it.
You guys know about the buckets, right? There's like the ethical bucket or the rational bucket. There's the reality, the truth bucket, and then there's the legal bucket. And it's you got to stay in the first two.
Great video. It's a way to mentally sort what they said, right?
You basically categorize, like they're going to come up with some bullshit, which is going to be the legalese, that's their stuff. And then you have to counter that with either ethics, which is logic, or truth, which is reality. Those are the two that you use to kind of, respond. And
He's been listening to the G Caps.
he's the man. All right, guys, I got you up earlier in the morning. You go to work. I'm going to take off here.
You've been listening to his stuff, and I bet you'd be a good candidate to drop some good shit down. I'd like to make some YouTube content. I think we all have that desire. We all creating in our own way, to throw some different perspectives on the same idea to get more people make this shit viral.
Absolutely. Just spread the word.
Little clips of role plays go, 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute long clips on YouTube, and just fire them all over the place. Start getting some content out there.
Absolutely. The more people are making the content, the more people are going to be seeing it. And if once everybody that goes into a courtroom does what we do, guess what? Their system breaks down. They cannot handle that. And that's when we win.
Well, there is no win. I don't.
Well, the win is leave me the fuck alone.
The thing is being effective in a courtroom where the public opinion is on your side, not where the public opinion thinks you're a radical sovereign citizen, free man on the land, mountain man, Dan shit.
Right. But if you can get your court trial to last more than 5 minutes, then you're definitely, I don't know, they pretty much scheduled me on a day that the courtroom was empty, and this is a courtroom that I've seen just always full.
Yeah, it happens to all of us. It happens.
And there's a reasons for that.
Right. I get you.
They don't want the disease we got getting the rest of the sheep.
Everybody comes in here with the same damn story. They always gotta tell it, and it always ends up being the same shit.
It's weird.
Yeah, if you don't start seeing those similarities, those are, they start to become irrelevant. Now the point is getting to the root of what is this place? Who are you? What's this? What?
Why do you owe them your allegiance?
You don't.
Not be in exchange for a duty of protection.
Nobody has given their consent for the government. No one.
What evidence do you have of that?
There isn't any. And just like Mark says, just men and women forcing us to pay them.
They're the ones making the claim, Kev.
Right?
But they also have the guns, and I don't think power is ever going to just give up power. Oh, sorry, we made a mistake. We didn't actually have, the right to rule over you. No, it just doesn't ever go down like that. It'd be nice if it did, but.
First burden.
Yep.
Now, what sucks is if we actually win our point, they're gonna, with their tail tucked between their legs, send us a little letter in the mail and just say, "Please don't come back."
Yeah.
Start to know the logical. Really, I don't know. Struggle to identify them at times, but I'm getting better. Really try to compute what exact logical fallacy it is. It's almost like I want to start using that in a objection, appeal to the cudgel, objection.
That's a beautiful thing, and the whole Socratic method and learning how to think rationally and be able to have discourse or have an argument with somebody or debate is a valuable tool just in life in general. And having a clear head is that's the biggest bonus. It's like, who cares about the tickets and the money and all that? It's the change in perspective that it gives you in your life. It's a big deal. I'm out. Later, guys.
Right. Yeah, been a pleasure as usual.
Yep.
I'm just chewing on that for a minute. And some other side thoughts too.
Cool. I'll be around a little more than I have been, hopefully. Later.
Smoking some nice indica, some thoughts going on here. Kind of glued to my chair, but I'm gonna have to stalk the fire for a bit. I think where I stopped the role play was where you kind of went weak at the knees. At the beginning, you could enter a little more confidence, following along a line of questioning that you get the reason why you would be answering or asking that. You know what I mean?
Kind of. I'm trying to think back to exactly when we stopped.
Be more clear if that were to deviate. Be more clear as to why you're asking to be able to stay on point. Because I gave you one of the easiest rundowns because I've never role played with you before. And when it got to the end, that's where you kind of went weak, right? Well, we can pick up from that spot again.
A bit. When did we stop? Is that when did we get to the point where I was asking for factual evidence regarding jurisdiction and claimed it was the ticket?
Oh yeah, evidence. There's so many ways to word that. So you got to get to understand you're not looking for evidence of jurisdiction. Evidence that might establish that element, or that would give rise to the court having jurisdiction to it.
I think this is where I started beating my head into a wall last time too. So
Right.
Just a
A
second.
lot of people come in with it like, I don't know. What do you mean? Talking evidence of jurisdiction. What are you talking about?
Well, what is the prosecutor submitted to you, sir, that establishes any evidence of jurisdiction whatsoever? I don't think my declaration of what that means has any value here. Does it? Probably could have cleaned that up a bit.
We're asking you what you are looking for.
I'm simply looking for factual evidence that the element of jurisdiction has been submitted to the court. That's all I'm looking for.
Well, prosecutor, what do you got to say to that? We gave them everything we need to give them. According to State versus Smith, State versus Wesson, yeah, everything can be provided to him. If he wishes to plead not guilty, go to trial. All right. Well, yeah, that sounds about right. Prosecutor, those are the standing precedents at this point. So, yeah, is there anything that you're looking for specifically? You can request it from the prosecution by motion, and we'll give you a week to file that document. Does that work for you?
Well, I'm sorry, sir. I have submitted a motion to that effect, and the prosecutor hasn't gotten back to me on that. So I'm just trying to clarify that here. So is it the prosecutor's assertion that these court decisions automatically apply to me?
I'm just going to go from railroad from this point forward. I'm just going to steamroll you. But the only reason I say that is why did you go on to his questioning and staying on?
Sorry, bud. Go ahead.
Why did you go on to his line of questioning instead of staying on? I took you off point. That's exactly what a judge is going to do, and I fucking did it. When I do that, why would I keep the role play going? Did anybody else catch that?
So if they bring that up as their reason, and I ask them how that reason, where the factual evidence that reason applies to me, where am I slipping out at? Because I think that's where I'm missing.
Where did you come from? What's your situation? Before I even really go, you don't have to tell me shit because there's other people in the chat. Redact your personal information, whatever. But what's your allegation? What's going on?
And it's driving while licensed in the 3rd degree. Suspended. Sorry.
You ever had previous allegations? Shit?
Yeah, I've had at least 4. I had to look. There might be 5 of the same charge to different degrees.
What do they want from you?
At this point, it's unclear. The max is 3 months with $1,000. 3 months in jail with $1,000. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to any of the lawyers. They shoved up my ass to see if there's any actual plea deals. And I haven't actually had a chance to speak to the prosecuting attorney. I was planning on actually going down there tomorrow to just kind of show up on their doorstep and ask about the motion that I submitted. It will be the second motion.
What's your life situation set up like? If you were to go in there, you know that when you go in there, you'll be spending 3 months in a cage. Just walking in the front.
If that were to happen, it'd be pretty catastrophic. I'm not gonna lie.
This is where I have a lot of issues with dealing with people in chats.
Just because I listened to your advice.
Personal situation, but if you are not going to be prepared going in there, there's no point in doing it. if I were just to give you any opinion personally, some you gotta really dedicate yourself to and really get to understand more of it, because it runs the risk of causing more problems than what you are walking into. Not to deter you, but not to encourage you into going either way.
Well, if I'm honest, if they offered me some sort of plea deal where, you know, it's just a few days, or I've even got the leeway of a month with my job and everything, you know, I might take it at this point. But whether I lose or win in this point, it's not going to deter me from trying to figure out or learn to make sure that this situation doesn't happen again, or at least next time I'm more effective in this situation. A little bit more background. I'm the sole breadwinner. We homeschool our kids. I've got 2 young ones and 1 older one living in the house with us temporarily. So, I mean, if I go down, it's especially for 3 months, it's going to be pretty bad.
Well, as long as you got that in mind.
I do. I definitely have reality in check. I mean, I hope people don't just kind of automatically think I'm bitching out if I take a fucking plea deal after all this stuff. But
Well, I did after 4 hearings, and it was $250K away license. But it was pretty difficult to make it down there 4 times. On the 4th time, it was like where I really felt like I had a grasp of it, and it was 6 out of 7 charges gone. So that's not bad.
yeah, I heard you referring to that last time.
In there.
Good. At least I know this time. I mean, what really kind of backed me off my line of questioning last time is the threat of contempt, and it was a Friday, and I had a kitchen to take care of. At least this time, I know my bosses actually are going to have my back a little bit, and you know, a few days of contempt aren't really what I'm worried about. It's the full-on sentence of, you know, max 3 months, $1,000 fine. Yeah, that'd be a little bit impossible to come back from. And out of respect for my employer, I'd probably resign before I went in. But they did say that they would, they'd handle my shit for at least a month while I dealt with this. They're not fans of the city either. That makes sense?
Yep. I'm just not sure how to comment to that. Just keep that in check, man. I can't really say much to that. Everybody's got their own limits. There are guys that have good thing. There are guys that don't want to give up fuck all.
I used to be one of those guys. I got a couple kids now, and I don't really have the luxury of just leaving them just because I want to make a point. I think that what I am doing is going to have to require a little bit more finesse or give and take. I just can't leave my boys for 3 months. That's not something that I'm willing to do. Might be something I have to do, but it's not something I'm willing to do.
Was that their maximum or minimum?
That's the max.
So they might just give you 2 weeks and $500.
They could. I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't as verbally effective last time I went in. I walked out with a lawyer shoved up my ass, who immediately passed me off to a different PD. And
you were unprepared.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure.
Right.
I didn't actually find this channel.
I'm not
to do
sure if
roleplay.
anybody here has anything to add at this point. I mean, like, it's a tricky situation when you're. I can't say I've ever had that kind of experience.
Well, and I mean, don't mistake me. I'm not really relying on this channel for advice on what to do in that point. I'm just trying to get more verbally effective dealing with judges. And one thing I have come away with is when contempt gets brought onto the table, things stop immediately, and you reassess the situation.
Right. Well, there are people on these chats that have been more experienced with, the more advanced shit. As far as I'm concerned, I consider it more advanced when you're going up against that and you got the art of negotiation going on. I don't think it's anything I'd really want to make suggestions on, because it changes your whole motive of what you're trying to ask or what you're going to really drive on. There's things that could really, I don't know. I've just seen too much stuff here. I don't know what the judges are like down there. Up there, I haven't really heard any stories like this. Quite a few of us have had some pretty good results up here. It's cool.
I can promise you none of the judges around here have ever experienced anything like asking them a question.
Right. What are their reactions?
Befuddlement, really.
I couldn't believe it. There's some interesting shit that judge said to me, and I was just a noob. That's when the learning began. Started that. Now I'm starting to pick up little intricacies as to where that gets better. And the judge could have answered anything I wanted. He could have. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I was at. I took a real basic script with me. Started out with, do I have the right to a fair and meaningful hearing? And immediately, I don't think I completely let go of the sovereign crap, because he asked me when my birthday was. And I said, yeah, I believe that's, from what I understand, that's what it is. Yes, sir. He took that as some attitude. And then I didn't get started with my questions early enough, so I answered some financial questions to the estate. I had a public defender that claimed to represent the entire courtroom, except for the people who came in with private lawyers that day, sitting right next to me. So anytime I would ask a question, she would pipe up real quick, which got me back to the plea of guilty real quick. And he said he wouldn't accept that. Jesus Christ, I'm trying to think. It's been a little while. So I had mentioned the plea of guilty. I said I just have some clarifications that I need met, and then I mentioned that I'm just getting a little pushback on my first question, and he stopped me dead in my tracks and said, I don't want to hear any more attitude out of you. I'm not trying to put anybody in jail today, but I swear to God, if there's something else. And then he kind of went on with everything. And after he brought up the threat of contempt, I sat silent until the very end, and he asked me if there was anything else. And at that point, I said, well, so at this point, if I ask any questions about today's proceedings, am I going to be held in contempt and thrown in a cage? He said, well, no, you're not going to, not if they're about the proceedings. So I asked him if I am innocent of the charges today. And I'm not being exactly as articulate as I was at that point. He said, yes, Mr. Mitzel, you are. Am I innocent of all elements of the charges here today? Yes, of course you are. Jurisdiction, one of these elements, sir. Oh, so you're a constitutionalist. He went back and started, he read the location off, and that's what was going on. And honestly, that's where my inexperience came to bite me in the ass. just doing my best to make sure that doesn't happen again, or at least I can see it coming before it gets to that point, if that makes sense. No matter what happens, I will learn this, and I will make sure my kids are equipped to be able to defend themselves this way.
All right, how do you plead? Male, female, or black Apache helicopter?
What was the question again?
How do you plead? Male, female, or black Apache helicopter?
Gonna run with black Apache helicopter. I've always wanted to be a minority.
All right, all right, Diesel Dyke it is.
It kind of sounds like everybody's winding down. Are there other channels that I can look to for? I know you were saying you didn't want to deal with anybody you don't know, so I'm more than happy to keep dealing with this with you and whoever else on this channel. But this is the only place I know of to go to for role play, and as helpful as it is, it's sort of like it's not a 24/7 thing. It's not a, when I get off work, there's going to be a few people there ready to kick shit back and forth. So I'm always open to new sources too.
And crush him.
No.
What was he saying here? Am I saying good?
He said it sounds like everybody's. No.
Let's get excited. Gonna make last call to forest.
Monday.
They're open. Yeah, it's
On
midnight.
Mondays,
They're not open till 2.
Every time I get my EI on,
Yeah.
always fucking. Last call's already done. We're doing cash out, or we're already booked. We're knocking, and we're like, Ryan, help.
PEI, EI, EI.
Did you really not hear me?
No, what were you saying?
Well, I was saying that I really use a few more places that actually have role play going on. I know that you were a little apprehensive, and that's cool. I'm happy to fuck with you on this channel as much as you want, but and as much as this channel is helpful, it's not always active, especially when I get off work up here in Pacific Northwest.
That's
So
in the category of one of the better ones for sure to stick. A lot of people are just struggling. Being summertime and shit, it's really hard to be constantly on things. Got other things going on. Like, I'm gonna be completely absent next weekend.
that's cool. I mean,
My
you're
daughter's
I
streaming
know
some
you say
live
that you get
content.
kicked off here a lot, but last time I had you on here, you were really, really helpful. So I'm not somebody who thinks there's only one way to do things. I think there's effective ways to do things and ineffective ways to do things. And the situation you're in kind of tells you which way to go. So
Is there anybody in this chat here that picked up that red herring script?
is it actually titled The Red Herring Script?
Yeah, there's that. Something interesting to take a look at. I'm not at a computer. I don't think I can send it right now. Sure, there's a way with this.
Oh, it's all good. I've heard of a script that's got a shit ton of questions on it, and while I would love to have it to read it, I wouldn't really want to, put it down as far as the checkbox of questions I need answers when I go to court. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's good stuff to put some more arrows in.
In the quiver.
Yeah.